Love the double angle. Thanks, Marina. That took me a hot minute to figure out. That's for sure. Yay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started, team, because it's 6 o'clock and we got dinner to make. Hi, Michelle. It's so good to see you. Yay.
Hello.
Hello. All right, y'all. So welcome to Cooking with Live Nourished. I've got two camera angles up. So the one right here, I'm going to use to kind of show you what I'm doing in the pan. And we're going to make a whole meal. I do think we have a couple more people joining us, so I might redo this introduction here in a minute. But I know that we have people, that was weird. We have people joining us on this call, on this workshop from kind of the whole range of the spectrum. So I know that some of you are incredible cooks and are super comfortable in the kitchen. And then I know a couple of people who signed up and a couple of people who have joined our membership recently and are really excited to watch the replay on this, are really brand new to cooking, and the kitchen feels very overwhelming to them. Yay, fun. So my goal with this workshop is to give you guys, whether you are brand new to cooking or you are an absolute pro at cooking, to give you guys some tips and tricks. Hi, Jacqueline, welcome. To give you guys some tips and tricks that will work for you to cook, whether you're brand new or a kitchen pro. Feel free to unmute. We're making this dinner together. This is a workshop. So I would love to see your faces. You don't have to be cute. It can be a mess. I've got this great kitchen set up because I have my computer on like a nightstand. Anyway, it's this whole thing. So anyway, that's the goal. If you guys have any questions about what I'm using, please feel free to ask. I'm going to go ahead and have Anna send out links to things that I use if you want them. So like if you love the mandolin, please feel free to ask for any of the links to any of the kitchen toys. And then my goal is also to give you guys kind of multiple ways to do things. So I'm going to show you how to cook the chickpeas both in the oven and on the stove if you want. I'm going to show you how to use a mandolin or a grater or a knife so that you really, whatever you have in your kitchen, whether you have a full kitchen setup or a partial kitchen setup, or you're making this on a camp stove, that you guys can do that. Hi, Katie. So without further ado, are you guys ready to cook an awesome meal? Yay, cool. And then my other goal with this is also, part of the reasons that we picked this recipe is I want to teach you how to make this recipe because it's delicious, but I also want to give you kind of some skills to throw some things together. When you get home and it's late on a Tuesday night and you just need to make some food. This is a great meal that you can substitute absolutely anything for. Instead of quinoa, you can use rice. Instead of kale, you can use lettuce. Instead of, tomatoes, you could use a peach, truly like anything in your kitchen. So we're going to go ahead and get a couple foundational pieces set up. And then we're going to make our mocktail, which is going to be our treat while we cook. And we're going to go from there. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, if any of you guys have any questions, let me know. So what you guys need to start is you need a strainer. We're going to start by getting our quinoa going because that's going to take the longest time. Anna will also send out all of these recipes, but for tonight, I just want you to hang out with me. So we're going to get our quinoa going first. Then we're going to soak our cashews. You actually don't have to soak the cashews, but to make the dressing, it'll make it a little bit easier if you do soak the cashews. And we're going to go from there. And I'm going to sort of talk through some nutritional stuff, and please feel free to interrupt and ask questions. This is a workshop, not like a cooking show. So I would love to interact with you guys. So you're going to take your quinoa. You guys are going to take about a cup. I made a ton last night. So just to show you, I'm going to use a quarter cup, but you're going to put that quinoa in there. So about a cup of quinoa. You're going to put that in your strainer. And then we're going to rinse that quinoa really well. Couple of things about quinoa. Quinoa is a grain. Ideally, we would have actually soaked this overnight if we were really on our game. So any kind of grain or legume or nut, the reason it can last in your cabinet for 10 years and never go bad is because it has this really cool stuff on it called phthalic acid, PHALAIC acid. And that phthalic acid keeps it good. It's the reason why grains and nuts and legumes have massive shelf lives, but it also makes them really hard to digest in our bodies. So one of the ways to break that phthalic acid down is to soak your grains and your nuts and your legumes. Nuts you would soak in water with a little bit of salt. Nuts and legumes you would soak in water with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. If you can plan ahead enough in order to do that, that is a great way to go. If you can't plan ahead enough to do that, which obviously tonight I didn't tell you to soak your grains ahead of time, we're going to do it this way. So we rinse it really well. We put it in our pan. Quinoa is a 1-to-2 ratio. So if you used 1 cup of quinoa, you use 2 cups of water. But I want you to make those 2 cups of water just a little bit shy. So, 2 cups minus a tiny bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put that apple cider vinegar in and cook it with it, so that while we're cooking it, we're still breaking down that phthalic acid. Another great way for both legumes and grains to break down that phthalic acid is actually to cook them in a pressure cooker. Beans cooked in a pressure cooker are 14 times easier for your body to digest than grains not cooked in a pressure cooker. So I just added that little bit of apple cider vinegar. You're going to go ahead and put that on your heat, and we're going to start by turning it on high. Now, the way we cook any kind of grain, so quinoa or rice, is we turn that quinoa on high. We put the quinoa in or the rice in with the water. We turn it on high and we wait for it to boil. Then as soon as it starts boiling, my headset battery's low. That's going to be interesting. I have a solution. As soon as that starts boiling, we reduce it to a simmer. And then the magic of cooking quinoa or rice is you don't stir it. It will get these little bubbles in there. And those bubbles are what keep it from sticking. If we stir it and we smush those bubbles together, it's going to stick to the pan and get really nasty. So sometimes I'll set a timer for this. In this case, I'm not going to, but that's how we do that. Okay, and I'm going to have you guys give me 10 seconds to go switch out my headset, because that I didn't think through. So give me 1 second here. Okay. But we need to disconnect it from here. And then reconnect it here. Technical difficulties, y'all. Let's see. There we go. Boom. Okay, we're back online. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're frozen on your computer for some reason.
Oh, how about now? Am I back?
Oh, you're frozen on your phone.
Oh, that's because I did this. How about now? Can you see me everywhere?
You're everywhere.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. So the next thing that we're going to do to get ourselves set up is we are going to soak our cashews. This is actually an unnecessary step. It's just going to make the blending of them easier. And we're going to make our salad dressing last. So we're going to take our cashews and we're just going to soak them in hot water. This just gets them a little bit softer so that it's easier for the blender. If you have a great high-powered blender, this is a really unnecessary step. I made this exact meal on Monday just to test it, make sure I knew what I was doing. And I didn't soak the cashews that night and it was fine. But we're going to put about a 1/4 cup of cashews into a bowl. If you feel like measuring, you can measure, but I also want to empower you guys to not have to measure, because with baking, you want to measure, right? If you don't measure with baking, you'll mess stuff up. I am a terrible baker because I am a terrible measurer. With cooking, you really don't need to. So a 1/4 cup, we're just going to sprinkle some in there, just so you guys can see that's about how much I put in there. And now I'm just going to put some hot water in there, and we're just going to let that soak. So I'm going to turn the water on hot. We're going to get it as hot as it'll come out. And then we're just gonna cover those guys so that they can soak and get nice and soft. And again, if you have a great blender, you don't have to do that. It's kind of an unnecessary step, but it will help it blend later. Okay, so now, while the quinoa is cooking and our nuts are soaking, we are going to make our mocktail as a treat while we cook. I love having something while we cook. It's some fun to have like a glass of wine, but we like to have something non-alcoholic. So having a mocktail is a really great option. Real quick, come check the quinoa before we do that. Here's what it looks like. So it's not, ooh, that's hot. Yep. So it's not quite boiling yet. There we go. Mine is pretty low. So we're almost there, but we're not quite there. So I'm going to do one more step and then I'm going to come back to it. Okay, cool. So for our mocktail, we're making these amazing watermelon mint deliciousness things. I've gone ahead and pre-cut my watermelon just so that I didn't take a ton of your guys' time. If you don't have your watermelon pre-cut, that's completely okay. You're just going to get a good amount of watermelon. And now the fun thing is that you guys get to make a choice if you want to have a watermelon slushy or a watermelon drink. And I'm going to show you how to make both of those. So what we're going to do is we're going to dump that watermelon into a blender. If you don't have a blender, you can always use an immersion blender and you just put this immersion blender right in the pot. That is also an option. So if you want an immersion blender, we'll send you a link, but either one is totally fine. And if you don't have either a blender or an immersion blender, you could use a food processor, or you could just mash it with like a meat masher. Any of those are fine. Okay, so we're going to put all of that watermelon in there. We're going to put that blender on the blendy thing. And then I'm concerned that I'm going to blow your guys' eardrums out. So if I do, let me know. Pro tip, put the lid on your blender. I've done that before, and I literally have smoothie on my ceiling from about 2 years ago. So turn it on. We're just going to slowly work our way up to puree, and we're just going to puree it until it's about a liquid. Boom. Okay, so now you get to choose. I'm going to make one watermelon slushy and one watermelon drink so that you guys can tell the difference. But what we want to do first is we want to muddle that mint in the bottom of our glass. So we're going to take our fresh mint. We're going to peel off 6 to 8 leaves, and we're going to drop them in the bottom of our glass. Another great way to muddle, if you don't have a muddler, which I don't, is just to rip up that mint. All muddling does is it breaks up the mint, so it gets all that good mint oil out, so you actually get the flavor. If you just drop a whole mint leaf in, 5-second rule, that's fine. If you just drop a whole mint leaf in, you won't get as much of the flavor. So then you're going to take a spoon or a wooden spoon, and you're just going to kind of grind that around in your cup to really get all that mint out. And if you want to, you can rip it up even more. Do that with the other one. This is also a great recipe. We're going to strain the watermelon juice here in just a second. But if you didn't want to strain the watermelon juice, if you just wanted to make a watermelon slushy, this makes fantastic popsicles. So I have these sweet little popsicle molds that you can put this drink in there, freeze them, and then you have an amazing popsicle. Or if you don't have that, you can just pour it in an ice cube tray. You can use popsicle sticks, or you can just use a spoon, stick them in those popsicle trays, and then you have popsicles. Okay, so we're gonna strain half of the watermelon juice. So we're gonna turn that guy off. We're gonna take our strainer. I'm gonna pour the watermelon juice through the strainer into the pan. Real quick, check your quinoa. My quinoa looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover it, and we're now gonna let it simmer. Okay, back to this guy. I started smelling it. So when you let your quinoa simmer, you're gonna wanna turn it down. If you had it on high, you're gonna wanna turn it down to a 3 or a 4, maybe even a 2 if you have a gas stove so it doesn't get too hot. All right, so we're gonna take this guy, we're gonna pour it through our mesh. and we're going to strain out all of that good juice. I'm going to pause right there because I want one to be a slushy just so we can try it. I'm going to pour that juice in there. I'm going to fill it about halfway full. Okay, finish doing that over here. And then to make that really get all nice and sorted out, see how I still have some juice in that bottom? I'm going to take a spoon and I'm just going to smoosh that spoon around in there so that I get all that juice out and I don't leave anything left over.
What's doing, Butters?
We don't want to miss any watermelon juice. If you have kids at home, especially if you have little baby kids, this watermelon kind of slush that's left over makes great baby food. It's delicious. And again, you can take that mush and put it into an ice cube tray and make a really yummy popsicle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call that good. I'm going to pour this into my other glass. Again, I'm only going to go about half full. We'll send you the exact recipes for this. But again, cooking is just a visual game. Try it, add something, see if it works. Then we're going to take our sparkling water. We're going to pour equal parts sparkling water and watermelon juice. Aha. Perfect. The one thing I didn't get out, I couldn't find. You guys, cooking shows, they do a lot of prep ahead of time, as it turns out. Okay, so we're just going to pour that in there. We're going to pour it into this one. Again, we have one that's kind of thick, one that's kind of not. And then we just want to mix that together. We're going to give it a little bit of a mix. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, that one got puffy. And then I love drinking stuff with a straw. Obviously, you don't have to, but my favorite thing are these little glass straws. We're just going to put that in there. Oh man, that's tasty. One thing that I thought of last night that's not in the recipe is a little bit of lemon juice. I like to buy this lemon juice. That's a great kitchen hack. You can buy whole lemons and then juice them. That's totally fine, but you don't have to. So just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and try that. I think lime juice would also be great in there. So mix that up. Yum. Cheers. Okay, so now we have our mocktail. One thing I would have put in there is ice. I forgot that. That was in the recipe and I didn't put it in there. Drop a couple ice cubes in there. Okay, so now that we have that made and we're ready to sip on it, we are going to start making the rest of our pieces. Real quick, go check your quinoa. Just make sure it's not boiling over. Make sure that it's not boiling dry. The way that you know that your quinoa is done, I'll show you this here in just a second, is you'll stick a fork or a spoon or a chopstick just gently down in there, and you won't see any water left in the bottom. If there's still water left in the bottom, it's not quite done. If there is water left in the bottom, or if there isn't water, you're done. We're also going to rinse out our blender because we're going to use that for our salad dressing. I very intentionally made our drinks first, partly so we could sip on them while we drink, but also because our salad dressing has a lot of garlic in it, and garlic can be hard to wash out of plastic. So if we made our salad dressing first and then we made our mocktail, we would have a garlicky watermelon mocktail, which sounds a little weird. So we made our mocktail first, then all we have to do is rinse this. We don't really even have to wash it, and we're ready to go with our salad dressing. Okay, so let's go check our quinoa real quick. I'll throw you guys on my phone so you can see that. So my quinoa is done. Whoops. There we go. My quinoa is done because, again, I used a lot less. You guys are using probably a cup. You can see kind of all those little holes in there. That's what let it boil up through. But if I put that spoon down in there, see how I have no water left in the bottom? That's done. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off. If you want to, you can give it a little bit of a fluff at this point. It will keep cooking a tiny bit because it'll steam, and that'll make it really nice and moist. But we're going to go ahead and cover that and come back to it later. Do you guys want to give me a heads up on where you're at with your quinoa? Do you know? Anybody want to give me a shout out?
I probably got like 3 or 4 minutes left.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Our timing is good. Okay, so let's make the dressing. again, part of the goal of this cooking class is to give you guys some structure that you can adjust and change and do all of these things. Dressings, if you make one good dressing for the whole week, you can put it on salad, you can put it on chicken, you can put it on a Buddha bowl, you can put it on eggs, and you've got this amazing flavorful thing. So making salad, a salad dressing at the beginning of the week can help you kind of meal prep without meal prepping. So we're gonna go ahead and make our salad dressing. You guys, this is so delicious. So we're gonna take our blender. We're gonna put just a tiny bit of water in the bottom. Make sure your water is cool, since the water we just used was warm. We're not gonna put much in there, just a little bit. I'm gonna put about that much water in. I do that in the bottom just to make sure that stuff doesn't get stuck. Then we're gonna put all of our ingredients in. And the great thing about making a salad dressing in a blender is you don't have to chop anything, you just throw it in. So we're gonna take our parsley. I'm gonna use this whole head. The way that I have found that's the easiest way to use parsley without having to put a lot of thought into it, you just take the ends, twist them off, and dump it in. If you're a super hypochondriac, you're welcome to wash it. But for the most part, parsley that comes from the store that is bundled really doesn't need to be washed. Okay, then we're gonna throw in our chives. So this recipe calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of chives. If you wanted to, you could chop up chives and you could put them in a little teaspoon measure and you could dump them in. I think that's really unnecessary, especially when we're trying to make things easy. So I'm just gonna take, so here's my chives, right? I have this whole big thing of chives. You could also use green onions, would be a great substitute. I'm just gonna take about this much and throw it in. One of the great things about cooking is you can taste it as you go. So if you taste it and you go, you know, that's missing something, you can throw more in later. It's always easy to put more in. It can be a little challenging to take stuff out. So if you're not sure, measure or start slow. And I'm just gonna quickly remind myself what else goes in here so that I don't forget any of the yummy things. Hold on. And we will send you all these recipes as well. Boom. Okay, so we've got our parsley, we've got our chives. We're gonna put in some fresh basil. Oh, you guys, the basil makes this unbelievable. And I forgot my basil, so I'm gonna have you guys check your quinoa and I'll be back in 14 seconds. Boop, boop, boop. Boom. You guys, I'm out in my garden grabbing basil. Quick fun fact for you. We made a reel about this today, but food grown in your garden is anywhere from 5 to 40% more nutrient dense than food that you can grab in the grocery store. Even if you don't have a garden, if you can go to the farmer's market in the summer and get all your produce from the farmer's market, you're going to dramatically increase your nutrient density. And I am obsessed with basil. So probably, I don't know, 1/8 of my garden is basil. Okay, so same thing. With basil, you don't want a ton of stems. So you're just gonna pick those leaves off. If you get some stems, it's not the end of the world. The baby stems are better than the big stems. Boop, 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 boop. I'm gonna throw those in. Awesome. Then we're gonna add some lemon juice. So if you have a lemon, cut it in half and squeeze it in. You can just squeeze it with your hand. You can take a fork and kind of grind it around inside there. You can use one of these cute little tools to squeeze it in there. Or you can just use that organic pre-bought lemon juice and you're gonna dump in approximately 2.5 tablespoons. So a tablespoon is the bigger spoon. I'm just gonna go 1/1000, 2/1000. And I like mine lemony, so I'm gonna put a little bit more in. Again, you can always taste, but when it asks for lemon juice is a flavor add. So a splash to a splash and a half is gonna be plenty. Okay, then we're gonna put in our raw cashews. So we're gonna take our cashews, we're gonna take that strainer, we're gonna strain it out. We're gonna shake out a little bit of that extra water. We're gonna dump those guys in. Boop. Awesome. Okay, then we're going to put in our garlic cloves. So when I made this on Monday, it calls for 2 large garlic cloves. I put in 2 large garlic cloves and it was very garlicky. Fresh garlic is one of those things that you're gonna get the garlic. This is called a bulb. This is called a clove. I'm gonna tell you a funny story about that in just a minute. But when I did it on Monday, it was way too garlicky. So I'm gonna choose to use 1 instead of 2. If you really like garlic, throw in 2, it's not gonna hurt you. And then a quick garlic hack to get all that paper off. You're gonna take a knife, you're gonna put that garlic down, you're gonna put your hand on top of that blade and you're just gonna push down. It'll crush the garlic a little bit and then you're gonna be able to peel that paper off really easily. I didn't quite crush that hard enough. There we go. And then that paper just peels off. There's also fancy things that you can buy in kitchen stores to peel off garlic skin. I think the side of a knife is easier. I'm a kitchen toy freak and I've had the garlic peeling things and I think a knife is easier. So we're gonna put that garlic in. Just a fun story. So garlic is what we call a food that gets more effervescent over time. So what you eat tonight will have a garlic flavor. When you put it in the fridge and you get it out for leftovers tomorrow, it'll be a little bit more garlicky. Think about chili or salsa. When you eat it the second day, those flavors have had some time to meld and they're a little bit more potent. So think about that. But here's a quick funny story about garlic. So when I was first married, I told my husband that I needed him to make dinner. I had a crock pot dinner made out. It was literally dump the stuff in, turn it on and go. Like the easiest thing you possibly could do. And it called for, this is so funny. It called for 2 garlic cloves. So the clove is like the little thing, right? He didn't understand the difference between cloves and bulbs. So he methodically minced 2 entire bulbs, which is probably, I don't know, what, like 30 cloves? Yeah. I told him it would take him 10 minutes. He's like, it took me 2 hours of mincing all the garlic. I was like, what did you do? So I get home. This is back when I was teaching. I get home. It's the middle of winter. I walk in. All of the windows of our house are open. The crock pot is outside on the porch. And I walk in. I'm like, what happened? He goes, well, whatever you told me to make turned into tear gas. I couldn't be in the house anymore because he'd used so much garlic. And so we tried to eat it and we literally couldn't. It was too garlicky. So all that to be said, this is a bulb and the little things in it are cloves. You're pretty much never going to use a bulb. You're always going to use a clove. Okay, so back to our dressing. We've got our garlic. We're going to put in our coconut aminos. That's this guy. If you don't have coconut aminos, some other great solutions, you could use a little bit of soy sauce if you're okay with gluten and soy. You could use a little bit of tamari, which is gluten-free soy sauce. Any of those would be fine. This calls for a tablespoon, so we're just going to put in a solid splash. So I'm going to stop there. Again, you can always add more later. Then we're going to put in a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of olive oil. I really love olive oil, and it's a fantastic healthy fat. So this only calls for a splash of olive oil. I put in significantly more, and it was definitely worth it. So put in a little salt to taste. Put in pepper. Pepper is, obviously it makes things taste better, but it's also an anti-inflammatory. It is an antifungal and an antibacterial. And it can help with brain fog, which is pretty cool. Then we're going to put a good amount of olive oil in there. That was probably about a 1/4 cup. And now we're going to look at what we have. Notice how I have a ton of hard stuff and then just a little bit of liquid in the bottom. I'm going to put in a tiny bit more liquid, maybe another 1/4 inch, so that I can make sure I can blend it. Liquid is something, again, that you can always add more of. So if you add too much liquid, it's going to be watery and runny and not that good, but you can always add more later if it's not blending right. And then we're going to do the exact same thing that we did with our mocktail. We're going to start low, we're going to go all the way up, and we're just going to watch and wait until it's pureed all the way through. Let me grab my phone so you guys can see that a little bit better. So I'm still seeing those big chunks, which means I want to keep going. Probably this will take about a minute.
I don't have as much as you can say.
Okay, so can you see how that's pretty uniform all the way through? I'm going to go ahead and call that good. While I was blending, did I hear one of you say I don't have a blender? No? Did I make that up?
Anna's kitchen helper is very cute.
Isn't he? That's Noah. He's the best. Oh my. Okay, so we've got our quinoa made. If you don't have your quinoa off the heat yet, I would make sure to take it off the heat. And now we're at the point of dinner where we just get to assemble it, which is pretty fun. So we've got one more thing to kind of chop. Oh, no, I lied. I'm sorry. The garbanzo beans. So in the recipe that we have, it calls for baking these garbanzo beans. However, it's summer. I don't have air conditioning and I don't want to heat up the oven. So what I did instead was I put these in a pan. We're going to do this while we grate the carrots. It'll be plenty of time. So I'm going to dump these. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to dump these into a pan. I'm going to add my olive oil. Let's see, I'm going to try to do this one-handed for y'all. I'm going to add my olive oil to that, and we're just going to gently saute these garbanzo beans while we cut the carrots and prep the rest of our bowls. So I've got these garbanzo beans. I'm going to put some olive oil over them. And then here's the other fun piece about cooking. We're going to use kind of a, I don't know, an Indian-ish spice blend. You can use any spice blend. You could use lemon pepper. You could use whatever you want. So we're going to throw some paprika, some turmeric, some thyme, and some oregano on these. So I'm going to start with paprika. Paprika is mostly a spice that just adds color. If you're on the elimination food plan or you're dealing with high histamines, paprika is probably one that you want to avoid because it does come from a pepper. And that's okay because it's mostly just to add color. I'm going to put about that much on. That's probably about a teaspoon. I'm going to use the same amount of turmeric. Turmeric is an incredible anti-inflammatory spice. It's great in curries. Again, that pretty much just adds color. So you can see we're almost making a work of art right now. Then I'm going to add a little bit of thyme. Thyme smells so good. I probably just put a little bit too much on, but that's fine. You can overdo it with spice, but it takes some work. And then we're going to add oregano. Oregano is also an anti-inflammatory. It's a cancer fighter. If you put oregano in meat, for example, if you're cooking tacos or something, oregano actually helps counteract some of the aging components of cooking ground beef. And then we're going to go ahead and turn that on to sort of a medium low. I'm putting that on my burner on 5. If you guys want to look at that fire, it looks about like that. I'm going to take a spatula. I'm going to mix that all around so we get those all nice and coated. Boop, boop, boop. Cool, and then we're just going to let those saute for a little bit. So something that we definitely want to keep an eye on while we do the rest of it. If you are not good at keeping an eye on things, I would set a timer for 5 minutes and check it every 5 minutes. We're going to grate our carrots, cut kind of our bonus pieces, and then we're going to be ready to go. Man, that mocktail is actually really good. Just to give a shout out.
Oh, sorry. Is there any way you can, we missed everything you just did?
Oh, yeah.
Did you put the phone next to the other camera or something?
The phone next to, what do you mean?
Well, because whatever you were doing on the side, we didn't see any of it.
Oh, weird. That's probably because the volume's not on there. Okay, so let me just take my computer over there. This is going to be exciting. So here's those garbanzo beans. Whoop. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I just have them in a pan with some olive oil. And then I sprinkled those spices on. So I didn't put a ton on. I just put enough of the paprika and the turmeric to make them colored. I put probably a half a teaspoon of the oregano and a half a teaspoon of the thyme. And now I have my stove set to medium high, probably a 5 or a 6. And we're just gonna let that saute. Is that
Okay.
helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I had my phone over that the whole time, but my phone doesn't have the
If-
sound on. So it's
Well,
only
if you
sound.
if you switch to multi-screen view and not just speaker view, then you see both of your screens.
Oh, that's a good idea. So if you go up to the view at the top right-hand corner, you can do that. But keep asking because I'll help you.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
what was that? If we do what?
You
View?
want to, yeah. So up in the top right-hand corner, there's a little thing that says view,
Okay,
and then switch to gallery,
okay.
and you should be able to see my phone and my computer at the same time.
Oh, okay. Do
You
we
see
just
that now?
switch? Yes. Oh, is it Michelle's iPhone or whose iPhone? Oh, Holly?
It's the, yeah, yep. There's 2 Hally Brooks. You want both of those.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
Got it?
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to do our carrots. So 3 ways to do these carrots. The recipe says to peel carrots. A lot of recipes say that. I actually, for 2 reasons, I don't think you need to. One, carrot skin has a lot of vitamins and minerals. So you do want to make sure that you wash all the dirt off because carrots are a root vegetable, so they're going to come with dirt. But if you just give them a good rinse, unless they're really nasty and hairy and weird, which occasionally you'll get a carrot like that, but not very often, I would just give them a good rinse, give them a good wipe, and then get all of those good nutrients from the skin. I typically do not skin my carrots, and there's really no reason to. And then no matter what method we're gonna do, we're gonna chop off the ends. So we're gonna chop off those ugly bits. We're gonna go boop, and we're gonna spin it around, chop that off.
Hey, Haley,
Yeah.
you've got some cute little grassy looking thing in front of your computer that makes it hard to see your cutting board.
Uh-huh. Those are our fake plants. Hold on. Can I even get them out? Why are they stuck in there? Hold up. Aha! Good call. Yep. Okay. How's that? Better?
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. So all I did was I cut off just the ends of the carrot so we don't have those pieces on this. And then I'm going to show you 3 ways to do carrots. So my absolute favorite way to shred carrots is with a mandolin. This is a really cool, magical kitchen toy. I'm going to do a couple that way so that you can see what it is. If you want a mandolin, we'll throw a link in the chat, and then I'm going to show you the way to do it without a mandolin. So with a mandolin, you're going to take those carrots. I'm just going to cut it in half or break it in half, put it right on there. Put this guy right here, grab it, and then we're just going to go back and forth like so. So I'm going to go ahead and pause with that. So if you have a mandolin, it is my favorite kitchen toy. It makes so many things so much easier to see how you have those nice, beautiful carrot shreds. That's my favorite way to do it because it's so easy. That said, for a Buddha bowl like this, if it calls for shredded carrots, you can just use a totally normal kitchen grater. Hit pause real quick. Go give your chickpeas a little stir. So I'm on my phone view now. So here's those chickpeas. I just turned the heat down a little bit. Olive oil is what we call a low to medium heat oil. When oils start to smoke, they actually change chemically. And so olive oil, we want to make sure we keep on that kind of low to medium heat. We want to make sure that it doesn't smoke. When it starts to smoke, it turns into a trans fat. It gets these kind of nasty chemicals in it that can be toxic for our body. So we just want to make sure that we're keeping it low. If you ever do need a high heat oil, butter is better than olive oil in terms of high heat. And then ghee, which is a clarified butter, is the best. Coconut oil is also a really good one. But notice I did just turn my stove down a little bit, gave those guys a nice stir. And now we're going to come back and finish up our carrots. So if you don't have a mandolin, you can just use a grater just like this. For shredded carrots, I like to use the side that has the big grate on it. If you're doing a Parmesan cheese or something, I like to use the small grate, but you can just take that carrot, and use the one that I didn't do, and we're just going to shred it like this. I did have the friend who bought me this when I first moved into this house also bought me a pack of Band-Aids, because you do want to make sure that you keep your thumb out of the grating zone. But again, a different kind of grated carrot, but that's perfect. And then if you don't have either of those graters, you really don't need grated carrots for a Buddha bowl. It makes it kind of a cute, nice aesthetic, but you can just chop it really thin. So the way I do that, if it calls for grated carrots, I'm going to cut that carrot down the length. I'm going to cut that carrot lengthwise again. I'll show you that here in just a second. So I'm going to cut it just like this. So it's got the kind of the 4 pieces. And then I'm just going to chop it super small. If you are new to the kitchen, the way you want to chop is you want to make your fingers like this, and you're going to chop right here, so that if you cut something, you just slide off your fingernail, versus if you cut flat, you're going to cut your fingers off. So you're going to take your carrots, you're going to tuck your thumb underneath your fingers so you don't cut that, and you're just going to rock that knife. So the tip stays on the cutting board, and you're just going to rock that knife, sliding your finger back to keep it out of the way so you don't mess it up, because cutting your finger is the worst. And then you have these nice little chopped carrots. So I'm going to switch to my phone view so you guys can see. Oops. What did I just do? Did I just leave it? Hold on.
I think you accidentally hung it up.
I think so too. That's exciting. 1 second, I can fix that. No, participants, copy invite link. That's weird. Paste, go. Okay, well, phone is out of commission. So I'm just gonna do this with my computer. So this is what I have. So that top right-hand corner, or that top left-hand corner is the mandolin. Below that, you have the grater, and then right next to it, you have a knife. So even without big fancy kitchen toys, you can make vegetables however the recipe calls for. You don't need big fancy kitchen tools. And if you have a mandolin, it's a wonderful thing. Okay, so we are now ready to assemble. We're gonna grab bowls. And we're just gonna put all the things that we just made in there. So we're gonna get our quinoa. And this is where you get to decide how you want to build your bowl. If you want to put the lettuce in first, you're going to take that quinoa, you're going to put in however much you want. I like quinoa, so I put in a lot. Then we're going to grab our spinach and our kale, and I'm going to show you what to do depending on what kind of spinach and kale you got. So I just bought from the store this already pre-chopped kale. Makes my life super easy. So I'm just going to grab some kale and throw it in. If you have whole kale, it's going to have this big, thick stem. What you're going to do is you're going to take the leaves and you're going to rip them off each side of the stem so that all you have is this stuff. And you're going to throw this away. Stems are great for making soups if you're going to cook them, but if you're going to eat them, that's really big and chunky and fibrous, and it's going to be hard to eat. So you're going to rip your kale leaves off the stem, and then just like we did with the carrots, you're just going to slice it into strips and dump it in. So I'm going to take that kale, I'm going to put it in. I like to make my bowls pretty, and I like to kind of separate them to start. And then obviously when I eat them, I mix them together. But you can see I have the quinoa, and then I have the kale. I'm going to put in some spinach. Again, if you don't have these ingredients, use what you have. If you have lettuce, throw that in. If you have bok choy, cut that up and throw that in. If you have, you know, I'm trying to think of another green, chard, throw that in. Then we're going to put our carrots on. So I'm going to put my carrots right there. And again, you can mix this all up. You do not have to make it look pretty. I just think it's fun. Then if you have any other bonus ingredients that you want to throw on, throw them on there. So I have an avocado, which I'm not going to cut right now because I'm actually going to go for a run after this cooking show and I don't want my avocado to go bad. But here's a hack for your avocado. So you're going to cut it open. You're going to take that knife, pull the pit out. You're going to slice it and then scoop it out, throw it on there if you have an avocado. If you are only going to eat half your avocado, leave the half that has the pit in the fridge because the pit will keep it from going brown. And then if you have a little bit of extra lemon juice, put that on the open part of your avocado and you can save it in your fridge and it won't get brown. I have a couple tomatoes, so I'm going to cut that up and throw that on. And then whatever you have in your kitchen. On Monday, we had a little bit of jicama left over. So we chopped up some jicama and threw it on there. We also had a little bit of cilantro. So we chopped up the cilantro and we threw that on there. Again, the goal of this particular class is to show you that there's a million things that you can do. So the ingredients that we had for tonight, you can swap out, mix up any of those. Instead of carrots, you could use sweet potato. Then we're going to grab a couple of those garbanzo beans. I'm going to go ahead and turn them off. They're nice and seasoned. I'm going to take a big scoop of that and put that on there. Boom. So it looks like that. Right? It looks so good. And then I'm going to take that amazing green dressing that we made. I'm going to drizzle that over it. Whoop, 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 whoop. And then again, bonus ingredients, if you have other fun toppings. Oh man, that's delicious. So if you have pumpkin seeds or walnuts or whatever, you can go ahead and drizzle that on there and that's what that looks like. Boom. And then all you have to do is grab a fork and dinner is served. So that is how you make a Buddha bowl. And an amazing mocktail. We took a pretty decent amount of time to make that tonight. Once you get comfortable in the kitchen, you get comfortable making stuff like this. This meal, when I tried it on Monday to make sure that it would work, took me 28 minutes to make. I timed it. Tonight it took us 50. But what I did, I love using the pressure cooker or the Instapot for quinoa. Because what I can do is after a long day of work, I can come home. The quinoa is the part that took the longest of this, right? Everything else was just like chopping and throwing it in the bowl. So what I did is I came home, I put the quinoa in the Instapot. I do 15 minutes on the quinoa, pressed go. I went and did a miniature workout in my living room while the quinoa cooked. Came back, chopped all the vegetables, made our mocktail, and we had dinner ready to go. So do you guys have any questions about anything? Kitchen, toys, the tools I used, how to swap out ingredients, anything like that?
I have a question. Okay, I'm sorry. We missed the step where, what do we do with the quinoa?
Oh, you just put it in the bottom of the bowl.
In the bottom of the bowl, and then the salad, the greens, and then we also put in the garbanzo beans?
Yep.
Oh, okay, awesome. And then the dressing over it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so I did quinoa, greens, topping, so like carrots. I put a tomato in there, and then the garbanzo beans, and then I drizzled the dressing over it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so
You can-
welcome. Great question.
Partition.
Cool.
I like separated a little bit. I don't know if
Yeah.
you can see that, like kind of partitioned off, so it's like section, like quarter. Hallie, would you like if someone wanted to make this like with like chicken or something? How would you do that?
Great question. So we actually did make it with chicken the first time we made it. We just got chicken breasts. Because it's hot outside, we grilled it. So we got chicken breasts. We drizzled them with a little bit of olive oil. You don't want a ton because it will light it on fire. I've done that before. And then we put a little bit of this seasoning on it. This is my favorite spice brand. It's called Frontier Spice Brand. It's non-irradiated. It's all organic and non-GMO. We put this on it, grilled it for, I don't know, my husband's the griller. I think like 5 minutes on each side, and then sliced that up and put it on top. But that's a super easy one. And finding a spice blend that's something like this that you can just quick and easy throw on is really easy. This Mexican spice blend is one of my favorites. That's a great question. Yeah, another cool ad for this, you could make a fried egg. and put a fried egg on this, that would be awesome for a little extra protein for breakfast, dinner, or lunch. Yeah, great question. Any other questions, you guys? Yay.
Not a question, but a comment.
Yeah, hit me.
I love quinoa because you can make a great big batch and it refrigerates well, and then you can pull it out and mix and match and add whatever other dressing or seasonings you want for mixing it up throughout the week.
Yeah, Michelle, that's a perfect comment. I feel embarrassed that I have my quinoa in a plastic bag. You guys were Airbnb-ing our house for a month, and literally this is the only 5-day stretch that we're home. So I have all of my normal like glass and silicone containers packed up. But Michelle is so right. So when we made this meal on Monday, instead of making a cup of quinoa, we made 4 cups of quinoa. And then I use that quinoa for bootables because I just have all the vegetables chopped. I put them in containers. I put them in the fridge. And then when it's lunchtime, I can just grab those containers out, throw my quinoa and whatever vegetables and the dressing together, and I'm ready to go. And then for breakfast, if you do quinoa, maybe some walnuts, some coconut milk, and some blueberries, a little bit of cinnamon, that is a really delicious breakfast. Yeah, so Michelle is totally spot on that. You could just grill a piece of chicken and do chicken and quinoa. That's a great meal. That's a really awesome staple to make a bunch of and have extra. Thank you for throwing that in. Yeah. All right, y'all. Any other questions before we jump off? New message. Where did the cashews go in the, what is it? Where did the cashews go in the end? The cashews went in the dressing. I dumped them in the dressing and then blended them in. Adding nuts to sauces is another great way to get additional protein and additional healthy fats. It's a reason why pesto often has pine nuts. I like to use cashews for my pesto. It's really good. But yeah, Eddie, I just put them in the dressing and then I blended them in. But you could also, if you wanted to, put a couple on top just for like a little extra fun, salty snack. So I have them in the dressing, they're blended in. But then I could also just do something like that and put a couple extra on my bowl, which would be delicious. Cool. Okay, any other questions? You guys asked great questions. Sweet. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Again, the goal is just to help you get a little bit more comfortable in the kitchen. If you were cooking with me, go enjoy your meal. If you weren't cooking with me, Anna's going to send the recipes and the ingredients out. This will be in the replays tomorrow. That cashew got stuck in my throat. Need some watermelon. So grab the ingredients, go watch the replay. The replay will have both my phone and the computer on there as well, so you'll be able to see both, and make it with us. We will be sending out the recording tomorrow. Yes, if you need to rewatch any part, you can. And you can always, put it on pause. Feel free to post questions in our Facebook community. If there's an ingredient that you want to swap out and you're curious about, post it in our Facebook community or ask your coach. And I hope you guys had an awesome time. This was actually really fun. So if you guys liked this, I would love to do another one in the fall. We'll do a fall cooking class. So just give us some feedback. Let us know if this is something that you enjoyed, and we would be delighted to do it again. Anna says, if you are on this call, I will email you the ingredients and the recipes right after this. Cool. Yay. All right, you guys, have a glorious night. Enjoy your dinner. Enjoy hanging out in the kitchen. It's a fun place to be. And live nourished. We'll see you soon.